All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the pilot episode of Naked Trading in Albion. This is basically a market talk of sorts of the game Albion Online, which was just released about 2 weeks ago now. That's basically what we're going to be here to talk about, kind of our first impressions of the game, what we've been doing, and expectations moving forward for the game. I'm Rodin. I've been playing Albion in its various beta stages for about 2 years now. Didn't realize it actually went live. Actually got launched like 2 weeks ago. I thought it was still in beta or something. It's like it kept getting pushed to the right. And I kind of gave up a little bit onto when is this thing gonna be on launch? So I'm glad that I found out about it. Glad that I'm here in the game, and I'm just gonna let our other guests here introduce themselves and let them know a little bit of what they've been doing in game. Let's start with Dank.
Hey there, how's it going?
All right.
Nice. So yeah, I somewhat moved over to Albion from Eve. I've been kind of paying attention to the general chat we've been going on. Or when the general chat we have had going on in the SEC lounge, there's a lot of people all of a sudden talking about this game called Albion. And I had no clue what you guys were talking about because it was all medieval shit and it was something completely different from the Eve universe I was used to. But I decided to just give it a try after listening to you guys talking about it for something like an hour. And frankly, I have completely forgotten about Eve. I just got completely sucked in. I've been just going straight for the meta game. I think I'm still in a tier 3 or tier 4 loadout right now, but having the time of my life, setting up all kinds of relations with people. I'm really impressed with this sandbox environment right now, so I guess I'm in it for the long run.
There you go.
Like everyone, you're cheating on the old girl.
Right?
For a new model.
Yeah, sorry, Eve. Albie is all here.
Yeah, but
This
there's
is
some.
younger and sweeter.
Yeah, there's some pedigree though behind the curtains, right? So, all right, let's go move on to Jeronica.
Hi, I'm Jeronica. I also came over from Eve. I mainly focus on services and stuff, and in Eve, I focused on market services. So I'm going to see if I can do the same in Albion as well.
Awesome. Caleb.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb. I am the original founder of the SCC Lounge in EVE Online, which is a market-oriented community for everyone that's actually got an interest in it and that primarily wanted to get into trading in EVE and learn the ropes, so to speak. I've been running that since 2008-9 or something like that. And yeah, I've been following Albion on the side a little bit, but mostly because some of my friends were playing it and commented that it was an entertaining and interesting take on the whole sandbox idea. But I was not impressed when I read about it a year or a year and a half ago. So I kind of put it aside. And then here in the summer slump of Eve, my girlfriend kind of poked me and said, well, should we take another look because it's about to launch? And we started reading up on it, and I was very impressed by some of the macroeconomic aspects that they've tried to actually put into the game. So it's kind of like Eve Light or a relaunch of Eve, but in a fantasy setting for me. And there's so many parallels to my original Eve experience back in 2003.
Yeah, that's true. I think not just necessarily the market folks, but I think even the combat-oriented folks from EVE Online are starting to take notice of this. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's still pretty early, but I think we'll go in through our topics here. First off, just want to ask everyone, what were your expectations, or did you have any expectations going into the game? Let me start off with that one since I've kind of played a little bit in beta. As far as my expectations, I wasn't expecting much. What really kind of started me on that path was as soon as they said that the game was going to be multi-platform, I kind of went like, well, that doesn't sound very hardcore. That sounds very casual. but at the same
RuneScape, right?
Yeah. But at the same, but I think I kind of failed to really see the beauty of that. You know, from an on Rails perspective, it may be limited because you can have to design the game to be usable at the lowest possible denominator. But I've been the meta game of Albion really breaks up that idea of this is a kid game that you can play on your phone, you know. So that's my expectations.
I think you should have had Fox 4 on the show today, because I'm having so much flashback when you start talking about platform variation, right? Because this is way back to Eve's early days, I think in about 2006-7ish, when the whole Mac and Linux client topic was very hot, and we didn't have anything in the realm of tablets and phones and whatnot. But this is just a retake or relaunch of the same issue. How do you dedicate yourself to one platform, or do you want to spread out, right? And in this day and age, it seems to be a lot easier to do cross-platform than it was back in the day. So I think it's a huge benefit that they did that.
Yeah, it's true. Have you guys actually tried the game in other platforms besides PC?
Not yet.
I haven't yet.
Nah, I'm kind of looking for if there's gonna be like an iOS release or something like that, but that always happens like a couple of weeks later because Apple is always pretty tough with that.
Yeah, it's true. Let me throw that question at you, Dan. What were your expectations going to the game? Because you kind of just didn't know anything at all about it.
Yeah, I had zero expectations of the game. Like, the only reason I started looking at it was because you guys were talking about it. And a couple of the things that caught my attention was, like, okay, so it's going to be on one server. And yeah, that's cool because all the games that I found most interesting so far are the ones that are being done on one massive server. Like Eve is a prime example of that. But yeah, so that was kind of like my first flag, like, okay, so this could be interesting. And then the second thing what I heard was there is little to no moderation on social interactions, which means that a lot of the game aspects and mechanics rely on trust, the same way that it relies on trust in games like EVE Online. And this is something that for me immediately triggers all kinds of things. Like, okay, so that means there's a whole meta possibility of things that you can do and try and set up. And then from there on, I heard that the game had just started up. So I thought, like, okay, if I want to get into this, this would probably be the best time to see if it's worth it. And other than that, I had no clue what the game even looked like. Like, when I was installing the game, I first started seeing a couple of pictures, like, okay, so this is going to be pretty medieval and wonky. And from there on, I literally just went in blank and started following the first tutorial, and then I heard people talking about Cauldron is where you want to be, so I rushed up there naked because I still hadn't put on any armor whatsoever. And from there on, I've just been seeing all these little game mechanics and things that are going on and the way the game is being played. And I must say I'm completely blown away by just about everything so far. I mean, if it weren't for the fact that the servers are down every now and then, I'd probably never log out. But
right.
Well, we have not had any wipes yet. We had 3 in Eve in the old days, so I think we're still performing better than the original girl.
Oh shit! I hadn't even thought about wipes. That's gonna be scary.
Have you seen everyone in the official Discord going wipe hype every time the server goes down?
No.
Yeah, that's probably what they're talking about. Oh my god, that's gonna suck because I've been going so carrot crazy. Like, there's this thing going around right now. Everyone is talking about that carrots might get a major spike because they won't be dropped anymore starting the next patch.
You're straight into the meta market stuff.
I know, right? We'll work our way up to it. All right, let me push that question out to you, Jeronica. Any expectations before you jumped into the game?
No, not really. I heard it from Caleb, actually. He's a board member on something I'm doing in EVE Online. So he kind of mentioned it to me, saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." Sounded pretty cool, so I just bought the game and thought it was worth the $50 I paid for it, and so far I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you did the running straight and butt naked to Kellion as well.
I didn't go straight there. I did a bit of the grinding and all that, try to get my bearings and all that, but I did eventually go there, yeah, naked.
Yeah. I was lazy. I just waited to get ganked and ended up in Caerleon. That didn't take too long. That didn't take too long. Nope. All right. So Albion is being marketed and it's advertising itself as a sandbox MMO. I'll be honest, as far as that particular genre is concerned, the MMO genre, that seems to be just phrasing that is almost always attached to any new release, just about. Does Albion actually live up to that claim that it is a sandbox MMO compared to?
It looks like it.
Yeah, it really, really does, though, doesn't it?
It really looks like it, and it's funny you mention it because I don't know how many actually know what CCP stands for, but it's crowd control production, and initially it was about the whole thing about population dynamics and how people move in big public spaces and stuff like that. So that's where the name comes from, right? And the whole sandbox term has then been just thrown around at everything. And sure, it is sandbox because you can still free and openly roam wherever you want to go in many of the sandbox games. But a sandbox with an actual economy and an actual ecology, and that's trying to simulate something real. The only few games that are out there, I think Dank mentioned one of them, is really Eve and then a few contenders. But as I've been saying for now 10 years, no one has been able to steal CCP's unique selling point, which is the ecology, the economy, and that whole meta-sociology on top of that, right? I think I wrote an article about this way back in the early days. It's not something that's easy to design because you kind of have to do it hands-off, like Eve did, and this is what Albion seems to be doing. So I'm very sure that it's going to get to some point that's going to look and feel like Eve.
Yeah, it's true. Any thoughts on that one, guys? Like, that kind of really was what got me thinking about it, because again, I was definitely not a believer at first impression of the game, because it felt so on rails during I think the first open beta, during the initial founders pack phase. Not quite as it is now, but it felt very on rails still, and it's great to see it actually evolve into what it is now. I think it was mostly because I think it really had a lot to do with the population size. At the time, there just wasn't enough people to really make a social play out of anything, Honestly, yeah, I think it's really living up to it, and hopefully it continues with that. So that kind of answers the next question: how does the game compare to other sandbox MMOs that we've played? I'll be honest, just based on it's hard for me to actually. I mean, let me throw that to you, Jeronica. How does Albion compare to the other sandbox MMOs you've played?
It's got a bit to grow, although it seems pretty promising. I'm just used to EVE Online, where everything's kind of glitch free for the most part, unless something new comes out. So there's a lot of glitches that need to be fixed, and little quality of life things that need to get in the game before.
Yeah, they've not put a lot of work into the UI or stuff like that yet.
Can they really afford? I mean, do they? I guess they have to make sure to not cross that line of being too complex to not be playable on less powerful platforms, though, right?
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's really one of the positive things about my experience trying to play this game from knowing nothing about it, is that everything is kind of, or maybe it's a little bit harsh, but dumbed down version of Eve's UI, which is good because Eve's UI is horrible and overly complicated.
Yeah, it's true, and it's just the way it's presented too. Like, right, like I know I haven't played Albion in other platforms here, but I can really see how it would make sense. Like it would be playable in a tablet because you can literally just like press around, right? It's mouse driven.
Holy shit, you're gonna get ganked by PC Master Race.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. There's no way. There's no way you can kite.
If there's a wizard out there that is going to be able to actually play hardcore PvP on a tablet, please record yourself so I can see that.
Yeah, for real.
Oh,
Kiting's no joke.
Well, I think actually the tablet is especially well for all the traders out there because, well, maybe for PvP it completely sucks, but I found a lot of times where I wish I could have logged into Jeddah while I was traveling on the train and just manage my orders from there. That's something I definitely can't do right now with any mobile devices. But yeah, getting out into the PvP game with the tablet, good luck to you guys. I'll be there to supply you a new setup when you get back to Keldron.
And also outer ring to inner ring trade routing, very nice to do on a tablet.
Yeah, that I believe so, definitely. It's like all the zones where you don't really have to watch your back for getting ganked or stuff like that. I guess tablet play is perfect. So it's probably... Well, actually, I can imagine that the tablet play is a pretty smart move because it attracts a lot of new players who are going to start playing on their tablets and going like, hey, this is actually pretty fun. And the more they get into it, the more they at some point decide like, you know what, might as well install this game if I want to continue with it. So it could be like a perfect attraction for a lot of people to get into it.
I think you're spot on. I think Sandbox Entertainment has basically nailed the tablet market. This is the first game I've seen or heard of on tablet that's not Candy Crush, where you can actually want to play this because it's actually meaningful. And it's funny because it to me that is that Sandbox has bet on the tablet, where CCP is now betting on the more expensive VR market, right? But I think the tablet market is actually going to win because there's just so much more of it.
Definitely. I mean, you need like a fraction of the player base available out there to actually decide to play your game, and you're already like hugely in the win over the VR market, even for the next 10 years or something like that. It's just everyone has a tablet in their pocket or a phone or whatever, and if the game is that accessible and it's basically like a trial run on your pocket, like probably actually if they would take down the price of a subscription for the first month to something like $5 just to get you started, then probably from there on the tablet market would take the game even further, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how fast they're going to do this, but I think they're going to do an Eve-esque progression on the whole monetization and pricing and product development. So I'm expecting them to do something like free to play, so you don't have to pay for the game initially. And then they're going to take the sub down, but it all depends on how many are going to stay around and how much influx of new warm bodies are going to come to the game. But this also ties into the fact that one of the only downsides I see to the game right now is that it's too small.
Yeah, true, definitely. It's like as in actual space right now, it's already too small.
It's kind of ironic when you compare to Eve, because everyone seems to say that Eve is too big. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the distribution of resources is wrong in Eve, but that's the whole macroeconomics discussion that we can have in a different episode. But I think somewhere in between is where they're both going to land. So Eve has to design to make it a little bit tighter, and Sandbox needs to make it a little bit wider. And then I think Sandbox needs to consider, how do we make these servers capable of doing at least maybe proper 100 versus 100 matches?
Yeah. Well, actually, I read something pretty interesting, a suggestion a player made. Like, you guys know the Uber model, right? With the whole surge rate and stuff like that. Like, at certain times, if you go to a spot when you're a driver, then people who actually want to make use of your services are going to pay twice for the same route. Now, what if you take all these empty zones out there on the map and say, like, right, you know what, this zone is pretty underpopulated right now. We're going to give it like 120% surge. Then you'll see people spreading out over the maps a lot more evenly instead of just hogging all the entrance ports to the main city hubs.
Yeah, I think that's tied into some of the things they've done with the zoning and the time zone issues with real life. I think it's bloody brilliant, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, some of the bonuses, like for towns and stuff like that, can definitely work on something like that. So when you have depletion or overpopulation, then the loot drops get worse and worse, and you got the whole tax issue. They have so many macroeconomic balance things that I saw someone in chat on Twitch that was bitching about the fact that he was running around in the zone and there was tax on the drops because it was owned by a player. It's just so many things in this game is done right, because I've been raging in EVE about SOV based taxation for years now, and Albion just launches and it's already got it. It's like, holy Christ, amazeballs.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I'm seeing right now. Is a lot of these things are. I love how the like literally everything is player market right now in this game, and it's even up to the point where the loot drops for mobs and stuff like that. I really like the black market system, for example.
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and it's okay. Again, this is not me patting my own back, but I've been bitching about loot table problems in EVE since gun mining and all that stuff, right? And I've been trading meta items since forever. But the point is that the loot tables are broken in EVE, and seeing the black market mechanism, how they're using the ISK faucets and sinks to actually get players to produce the loot tables, that is so brilliant. I have no idea who made that idea up, but it's amazing and it should be patented.
Caleb, can I ask you to explain the black market a little bit more for those of our viewers who may not understand what they do?
Well, basically, okay, it's a little bit complicated, but not really. It's based in Caerleon. It's this guy that's on the main plaza, and you go to him and he offers to buy your shit, right? Then the price that he buys it at is basically controlled by some sort of balance on the silver faucet inside the game. So how much is silver, I have to get used to this, how much silver is being put into the game and how much is getting taken out by things like taxes and stuff like that, right? So if you're selling something like a tier 2 item, let's say a leather armor, is in the realm of production cost around 32 silver, 32 to 40 silver, right? Depending on your local raw material price. If you recycle it, you get 24 back from the system, and then you get some of the mats. I think it's a quarter, and then there's a random generator in there as well, as far as I can tell. So the recycle cost, this is very much similar to in EVE, the recycle cost of your material, you get some of that back as silver instead of materials, which is kind of brilliant, because then it becomes linked into the silver sinks and faucets. But the point is that you sell that item to the vendor, usually at a higher price, so you actually get a profit from the system, and then that item is now put into a loot table and is dropped by mobs out in the wild. I think it's only in dungeons, but I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm trying to catch up on all the mechanics, but that loot then becomes part of the economy outside of Caerleon. So when that guy then either uses it, loses it, or destroys it in durability, he can also choose to take all these loots and bring them back to, say, Caerleon, and then sell them back to the market, or sell them back to the black market. So there's this whole player market, black market, loot tables, durability, production. There is nothing in this game that is not player produced. You cannot get a drop out in the wild that is not created by a player. I don't know if they've actually added the fact that the item should then show who's actually produced it, which would be...
Yeah, they did add this.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, you can actually see it on the items in the upper corners right now. You can see who built your original item.
That's intel.
That's just so awesome. There's way too much free intel. I think Aerith would shit bricks if he saw this, because you can just basically you can right click on any player, and I think some of that stuff is actually in the API already, even though the API is hidden. And then you can see exactly how much silver they have.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
So the only place you can hide your silver at the moment is in the guild bank, but I think you can also see the guild bank silver as well.
Wow, that's an incredible amount of vision. I mean, is that
crazy? And I hope that
is that
they
okay?
fix this soon. No, it's not okay. They need to remove that. You should not be able to see how much silver someone's got.
Well, something I was actually looking for, is there a way to, this might be very specific again, but is there a way to actually cargo scan another player?
No.
Or there isn't?
That's basically just a lucky dime bag or whatever. It's a flying pinata. You have no clue, and it could. There was someone saying that there's a super ganker somewhere out in Null or the Black Zone that really is like amazing at ganking people that run around harvesting and trading, and they wanted to play a prank on him and just fill up an entire fucking ox with trash items. And then just see him rage.
That would be sick. Oh shit! But at the same time, that's kind of a bummer. I have to rework a couple of ideas then.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. We'll definitely get to those. That's super interesting stuff. The next thing
I would just like to add that there's so many small things that you can see that there's going to be some effect on, but you haven't seen it yet. And I'm talking like a new player because I've not played the beta, so maybe Rodin can correct me. But things like right now you have rough stone and all the tier 1 items. There's only 3 of them or something like that. But you can see that they're being used in some things, and they're being used when you have to produce stuff in your islands. So you use a T1 material and then the tier that you're upgrading to. But then there's also things like repair, and there's durability, and there's food. There's just so many things that are basically cost of living. All the things that are not in EVE Online.
Is it that big of a difference?
It's going to have huge implications. The economy in Albion potentially could be a lot better than EVE Online.
That's a big claim, man. That's huge.
Well, it's because I'm seeing all these things that, all of these things kind of do stuff that in the real market is what sustains it and keeps it healthy. Things like the fact that durability, right? How they should actually add durability on food, and it should be a timer that goes down so it becomes a proper
expiration date, right?
Yeah, expiration date. That would be amazing if they could do that. So it just ticks every day, so you can't stockpile your carrots and farm.
No,
my carrots.
Because it's exactly what's missing in EVE. It's why EVE's economy is broken. It's these lacks of replenishables and things.
Yeah, perishable goods. You were talking about that.
I just think it's amazing to see that durability in Albion seems to do something like this, and then they've just had so many small brainy ideas that I'm just applauding like a little kid.
Yeah, so it's very well thought of. You know, it was more of a looking at the picture and treating it like a whole, like a whole system, not just, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do that. Oh, what happens next? No, I think the whole game is very well thought of, to be honest, and the ecosystem is very well thought of. Actually, using that as a segue, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is so the currencies in the game. So we have silver, which is in-game, gold, which is premium, like you buy with real money, right? But there isn't necessarily a traditional conversion between real money, gold, and silver. There's actually multipliers that are bound to that. The gold discount.
And it's shadow market, right? It's totally controlled by Albion, which is kind of brilliant, because then they don't have the same problem with the conversion rate between game time and in-game assets or in-game money, where you let the players trade it themselves. They are letting them trade it, but on something that cannot necessarily be seen by the players. So isn't it a little bit like World of Warcraft, where Albion can seed silver or seed gold as they see fit. So they have this central banking option, totally available, totally legit. No risk of players bitching about it, because it's been like that since conception, right? So they have full control of the balance of game time versus real-time money. That means that they've taken control of the monetization scheme of their own game, which is just brilliant. And CCP should do something similar. There was the discussion about the fact that on the forums recently in EVE, people were bitching about the fact that CCP is actually printing the Plex out of thin air for the AT, right? So it ties into all these macro central banking issues, and I just find it extremely interesting.
Yeah, let me read this blurb right here, so that we're all kind of understanding kind of the idea of what we're talking about. So this is concerning the gold discount. When there is too much gold in the system, when the price is too low, currently below 500 silver, for example, you get a 50% discount off all NPC silver prices. So that includes repairs, buying islands, seeds, animals, etc. This goes to 0% when it reaches 1,000 silver per gold. Now that they additionally do is, where there is a global discount and you spend silver, the system takes a portion of that and uses it to buy gold and removes it from the system. So it's a self-regulating system, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Pretty much, or sort of. It's the same with, I don't know if you've noticed, but it looks like there's some sort of multiplier or variable thing.
Yeah.
Something as simple as the silver drops in the actual ecosystem, so when you're killing mobs. And I'm pretty sure that that's all tied into whether there's up or down deltas on the price conversion between gold and silver. So how much silver is totally going into the system and how much is coming out. So again, it's sinks and faucets of EVE, but done right, or at least done in a more interesting and self-regulating way.
Yep. Let me throw that kind of idea to you, Jeronica, since you're more of a tools person. Using that system, is there what kind of possibilities you think are gonna be doable when it comes to providing services or tools in relation to buying and selling gold or converting it to silver or stuff like that?
I don't know how much the developers will want the gold market removed from the actual game itself. Just like how CCP doesn't want the Plex market outside of the game. But when it comes to silver, I can definitely see where we could set up banks and hedge funds and stuff like that, where people deposit their silver into us, and then we can use that to do investments. Or
are you saying we need an SEC lounge fund for Albion already?
Well, I think Dink already started his own collateralized loan request, so
yeah.
I mean, there's going to be things starting, and I think that at least
we're going to have a job in Albion as well. Dank, your offer on the forums, could you poke a few words on that?
Oh, hell yeah. Well, yeah, so actually that's one of the things that I went for straight away, was looking at the potential for stuff like player-run loans and investments and stuff like that. And actually, a couple of people were already somewhat experimenting with this. Like the first thread I saw on the forums was an investment fund for mounts. And as I understand it, especially early game, mounts are a very valuable commodity to have. And this market is something that everyone just rushes into. And then the second thread I saw was this massive Ponzi scheme that's running right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Like this this character called Saya, I believe.
Oh, howdy people, Jesus.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's like the Bank of Albion is what it's called. And if you just read through the whole setup, I believe the collateral for this is the founder's items that he received for being a founder of the game. And right now he's holding like 150,000 gold or something like that.
Oh my God. Is it Iron Bank? Or is it Bank of
Holy
Online?
shit.
It's something like that. This is like Phaser Inc. all over again. So
I think it's actually one of those guys, because I suspect that some of the people from EVE is definitely going to Albion and trying to do some of the same schemes. I would not be surprised if it's someone we know.
It's virgin territory. I mean, just saying.
Definitely, it's uncharted territory, and that's what's super interesting. Like within a day's time, I found one system that was working correctly and one system that's gonna traumatize all these albinos that I've never heard of even one. Like seriously, the devs are gonna have their hands full with this one because someone is gonna make some big bank in the next couple of months.
Are we?
Oh,
when you say that,
that ties into I don't know. What do you guys think about Albion's approach in the future? Because people are already crying about things like not enough resources, they yield it.
That's part of
they're
launch,
crying
man.
about things like full loot drops, and I'm sure they're going to be crying about scams. So I'm very curious about whether they have the balls to actually do exactly the same as Eve and say it's totally going to be hands off.
That's exactly what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like in the end, if the devs take a stance in this one on like, hey guys, this game requires you to use more than just your skill tree. This requires your brain. Then eventually that whole crowd will just die out or adapt to this new meta. But if they start changing things now, then it potentially could really ruin a couple of very awesome concepts that the game has right now. Like there's like a very thin balance between there. Like you're reading posts of people who are really exploiting ways of popping safety bubbles or expecting cities to be full so that people can kill you while you're trying to get into town. Well, that's stuff that they obviously need to fix. But then also I see stuff of people who party up with complete random strangers, go out to a black zone, get killed, and then they start talking about lawsuits and shit. Well, sorry, but you should really check what kind of game you're playing before you actually start playing it in that sense.
Yeah, it's really the summer children and that whole generation. They're not used to hardcore gaming, right? In this sense, it's also why CCP's Eve is still such a niche. And I'm just very scared that Sandbox is going to give in and don't have the balls to say this is going to be a very simplified version of Eve, and that's what we want to compete with, and that's what we want to develop. I can't tell if they have the balls because they already yielded with the resource stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's actually one thing that I find the most amazing of all, and that's what I've been completely obsessing with, and what I've been trying to set up now. Have you noticed that there is no contract system?
Nope.
Oh yeah. Third party contracts for the win.
Oh man,
it's 2004 all
absolutely
over
it's
again.
so
amazing.
open. It's so open.
It's completely open. Like there is, I've been doing trials now with trying to set up something like a career system where people can get paid to run your items from safe zones to stuff like Hildrunner and stuff like that. But there's not a single way to set up a collateralized contract or whatsoever. So essentially what it comes down to is that I'm doing all these crazy trial runs and messing around with trade windows and being completely nervous if people are going to stick to their end of the deal. But at the same time, it really is exhilarating because this is what it actually feels like to do a trust-based contract. And it puts so much in the hands of the player to develop a system where collateral is safe for both parties. And then all of a sudden you notice how much you take for granted in a system where it's just two windows and you bind it and that's it. Like there is no legal binding whatsoever, and there's also no game mechanic binding you to any deal you make. So
in expansion of that comment, right? Have you considered how important it is that if you start doing things like that, if you store people's goods or take collateral or things like that, that's actually going to impact the economy because you do not have infinite storage, which is kind of interesting, right?
Yes.
That's a really good
We were
point.
talking about this on the Blue Horseshoe, about one of the really amazing things in EVE Online is that you have infinite storage, and every other game has extremely limited and almost stupid storage and bag space. Albion seems to have figured out how to do the middle way in a very, very perfect way, because your storage is based on the chests that you buy. You can put down as many as you want, but you have to build them, and they can store a limited amount of things. And there seems to be also the option of duration on how long they can actually survive. I know that they're using that and how they survive in the wild. And if they did something similar in Player Islands, you have something really amazing, right? Because
Definitely.
what type of asset can you store in what type of container? Because they have different weight limits and slot limits. So there's just so many options out there that there seems to be so much potential in Albion, and that's why my mind is blown about this game.
Definitely, yeah.
All right.
So we should start a fund now and hoard T2 mats. And
Yes,
make
well,
sure that we get containers and fill up an entire guild island only with containers and only have T2 mats. So we're ready
warehouse
when the fucking
island?
demand hits.
That's crazy.
sure. Yeah, count me in.
That's where the big money is, in my personal opinion. That would be my bet now. If I had a fuck ton of silver, that's where I would put all my money on only T2 mats. Because when you start getting the hits from tier 6, 7, and 8, and then I think I heard that there's actually 9 and 10 potentially. I think they calculated that you need, is it 1,200 units of a T2 material, raw material, to create one tier 8.
Wow.
So if your profit margin on the tier 8 is really nice, and you consider that the tier 8 resource that you mine is free, right? Then you have to put the price on all the rest. So the composition on price, I think T2 is going to be the real big moneymaker on margin.
We'll get into that because that's actually my operation.
You've already done that, and now I've told
Dude,
you.
that's all I've done. I flipped T2s all day. That's all I do. Actually, I just
have you gotten the scrap market?
I'm getting into it. I'm totally getting into it.
Because I'm having the hugest flashback. That's how I made all my money in the beginning of EVE. Figuring out all the recycle costs of all the items, and then because there was infinite orders, we have that in Albion.
Sure do.
I had like thousands of orders running in all the different regions, and then I just picked up when the pile was big enough to actually warrant it, and then I just shipped it back, and I was almost fair pricing everything at recycle cost. So I think I was at a 75% of current market, and then I took the 25% on the recycle value. So that was my profit, and I just made a fuck ton of money on that.
Yep.
And I benefited from the fact that CCP sometimes change the compositions, and usually they change them up to increase demand. So I actually got free money when there was patches.
So I got a two-part question here for Dank, since he kind of opened the can of worms of the contract system. If you feel comfortable, Dank, do you mind getting into some of the details of how you do your operation, just for those who just simply may not have an idea of how such things can actually happen? And
all right,
along those your description,
sure.
then I'll have a follow-up question once you're done.
All right. Well, it's actually right now the way I'm trying to set it up is well, let me start off. At first, I was just looking like, okay, so how would I actually trust someone with a package of items that I wanted to send somewhere else to make a profit off it? So I was looking ultimately for some form of collateral, and at the very beginning, it was like, all right, so I give you, for example, 1,000 carrots, because that's all I have right now is just stockpiles of carrots, which I apparently, according to Caleb, have to get rid of pretty soon.
You're all carrots. You're all carrots.
The carrot bubble is real.
The carrot bubble.
Sure, let me pop that somewhere next week.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, so I was in this situation, like hypothetically, if I have 1,000 carrots and they're worth 100K for those 1,000 carrots, how will I get them safely to the other side of the destination? Yeah, then the easiest part is, all right, so I give someone my 1,000 carrots, that person buys them off me, and then on the other side of the trade, I buy it back with a markup, a percentage, for the one who's running it. Then from there on, I was thinking like, all right, but ultimately I would like to be able to set my own value of collateral, not so much based on the item price itself, but based on the potential profit that I might make off that item. And this is where things start getting tricky, because this involves a layer of trust. Like if I give someone 1 carrot and I want that person to run it for me for 100K, and then, of course, I pay him based on the collateral, not so much on the item. But what guarantee does that person have that I did not just sell him a carrot for 100K? And that is actually one of the things that I'm working on right now with a bunch of people through building up trust with them, that they know that if I give them 1 carrot for 100k collateral, I will actually pay them for that 1 single carrot, the price that we came down to. But especially the part where you can collateralize projected profit and somewhat insure your investments is where most of the work is what I'm putting into it right now, is trying to find ways where I can give securities to the people running for me, and at the same time secure my investment, that even if they lose the cargo, I still make a profit on what I have.
Wow.
Collateralized stuff.
Collateralized courier, right?
Amazing.
I mean,
so we're going to need the third parties, trusted third parties. Who's going to be the cribber of Albion?
Definitely, and
It's
there's
up to you, I
already
think.
kind of a scramble for that going on right now. There's like 2-3 different third parties popping up. One of them I don't really trust. One of them
Really?
I'm starting to get into with right now, and one of them is hopefully me. But we'll
There
see.
you go.
So what do
No
you guys
promo
think
time.
about something gray zone about unofficially linking things like the social stuff with Eve?
What do you mean? Can you give an
Well,
example?
you can reuse.
Yes.
I can collateralize stuff in Albion, right, by using Eve assets. So
Yes.
I don't know if that's within EULA.
You can do the cross currency valuation, and then you can actually say, well, I don't have anything in Albion, but I'm going to store this with you as collateral in Eve.
Yeah. Well, I think
Because I know that trading money directly back and forth is, of course, not legal. But if it's only to securitize, can you then say that it's totally illegal and against the EULA?
I think actually, if you do that, you will run into the issue that you are delivering a service out of game for in-game materials, and that is probably where things will get very messy very quickly. Because if either one of these two games says like, "All right, fuck it, we're not doing this," then you're basically screwed out of half of your deal, which ultimately makes you lose double collateral.
Well, the point is that if I keep all the actual value profit-wise in one game, right, then collateralization, which is basically just the securitization, is actually out of game.
Actually, this would be very interesting, because then you create an exchange rate between games without actually impacting or trading those currencies.
That's wild,
basically
man.
just comparing apples and oranges, saying that I'm securing this many apples with this many oranges because the current value between these two systems is pretty much around this currency conversion if it was legal.
Shit, yeah, that's some forked up system you got there. I love it.
That's crazy. My follow-up question with that one, so thinking about just how you described your operation, are there things that players and devs need to be aware of going into the MMO market as a sandbox game, using your operation as an example? Like what could become really, really bad based on what you just displayed as a potential for sandbox play?
Well, one thing that immediately comes to mind, and something that I'm actually worried about, is what happens if someone out of the blue gives me, let's say, 50k gold, and I give nothing in return. I think in an automated system, I would immediately be flagged as a potential RMT trader, and potentially could be banned for taking advantage of a sandbox environment. So I'm still pretty worried about what happens if I accept high amounts of in-game currency with no apparent action in return. Like this is something that I am somewhat hoping to get an answer on from the devs at some point. But how are they gonna distinguish between someone who bought that same amount of gold, for example, with out-of-game currency, or my situation where I am delivering a social service based on an in-game transaction? I
think this game, being the second one, right? Before today, in my opinion, you only had one proper sandbox game, and with an actual economy, and where things are worth something. That's Entropia and Second Life and all that stuff. Sure, there's value, but it's mostly vanity and it's mostly bullshit. Now you have a contender. So now you're going to have a competitive market between these two now proper virtual economies. And to me, that means that both developers need to start talking when it comes to things like the meta markets and meta trading, shadow trading, cross-currency stuff, even RMT, because there will be people like Iron Bank and the casino guys and of course goons that's going to do all these magical weird things like interdictions and scams and all that stuff. And these developers need to be ahead of it. And as it looks now, I don't think any of them are.
Yeah.
Very true.
Let me throw that question to you, that same question to you, Jeronica, since you're kind of like a up here kind of execution of services and meta play. What potential pitfalls are you seeing, if any at all, in the current state of Albion, and how the players tend to react to its environment, its sandbox environment?
I think there's a learning curve players will have to go through, and also a learning curve the developers will need to go through. What I mean about that is right now, I think we're experiencing the same thing that CCP did, is the people on the forums are saying one thing and people in other places like Discord are saying another. One of the tools that are being developed, that's being developed by Fox4, who actually came from EVE Online, he's having an issue trying to get a clarification of if his tool is actually legal for people to use. So I think what would need to happen is the developers need to be clear and concise with what the rules are. So with what you were saying about transferring of silver and all that, like large quantities, they'll just need to like have they'll just have to do the research behind it, not just ban right off the bat.
I think that's what I meant, right? They can't do the old school, oh, this looks iffy, ban. They have to now start thinking about things like proof and who are you going to potentially hurt if you do something, right? Because we've just had these things with the Concord ships in EVE, right? There's going to be fuck ups like that in these games, and they're going to potentially cross affect each other because players will be playing either or both, and there's going to be meta markets between these things, whether the developers like it or not. And again, then it comes down to provability. Can you prove that I am actually holding X billion equating to X dollars of Dank Bank's collateral in EVE and securitizing that for Albion? How are you going to prove that? You need some sort of investigative body, and I think this is the first step on something very real life meta that we haven't even seen yet. Because these virtual currencies are becoming real, we are going to have to get the legal system and the criminal system updated to that. So it's kind of weird because it's going to be like extradition and rules of things like that when it comes to financial crimes. We're going to see something develop from the fact that we now have two developers in the game.
Yeah, man, this is some sandbox bastard currency you're building right here.
Because if I'm into, say, real life currencies, Rodin is trading in real life. I don't know if he's done currencies yet, but currencies, commodities, futures. Maybe he's doing some Bitcoin stuff as well. Maybe his friend Jeronica has a server farm where they can use that to actually grind and then rent it out for things like websites for Albion and EVE Online and fan sites like that. So many things are developing from the fact that now there's two.
Crazy.
Sure.
I'm gonna throw a question to you guys, to the public here. is Sandbox Interactive ready for EVE players to be shared for the space?
No,
Are they ready for us?
No, they're not.
It's like, no, they're not.
They're just not.
No, I mean, look at the general Sandbox player base right now. You have, like, let's take this this Bank of Albion example again. You have someone saying, like, here, I give you 300k silver in collateral, give me 500 million gold, whatever. And people are going like, oh, okay, sure, you'll be banned if you cheat, right? And they have absolutely no idea how messed up the mind of an EVE player has become after something like 15 years of scamming and backstabbing and all that shit. It's
and
like
I was scammed year one
of social engineering. And right now, this game is at its infancy. The players are at its infancy. The devs are going like, hey, let's have something like a sandbox game. And we as EVE players are coming in and going, nope, all right, here you go. You want us, you can have us. And in comes the bank, in comes the trading scams, in come the blobs, the zergers, all that stuff. And no one is ready for this. I mean, EVE isn't even ready for EVE.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. We're not even talking about like the PvP types. I think the PvP types are a little easier to control versus the market types, because
definitely.
It's hard to put a grasp on markets.
Well, yeah, it's actually this is something.
Really, right? It's the same problems as in E, right? With the blue balling and things like that. We're going to see the same things: political shenanigans, personal grudges, all these things. If the meta is going to develop like in E, Albion is not ready for Albion. And the beta crowd, they were not taking it serious enough. I know they were kind of taking it serious, but because it was not real yet, it was still just even more play. It was play inception. It was game within a game, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, one thing that I've been noticing now with there's two other projects that I'm trying to set up right now. It's like the courier contracts is one thing. The actual thing that I'm trying to set up is a mercenary market at some point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I've been talking to with other people. Like, for example, the courier market only kicks off if the red zones actually get dangerous. So I'm talking to some other guys right now to at some point, well, this is all kind of OPSEC, and I don't know why I'm talking to you guys about it, but imagine paying a couple of merc guilds to really do a complete lockdown of all the trade routes, and then paying other guys who have safe access to go through those trade routes, and forcing everyone into a funnel to get into it. And if you do the same thing with the Zergers and the black zones, where you have an entire community who is raging that they cannot get into a black zone, and then you make a deal with a couple of those big blobs and go like, hey, add one corporation to your alliance, and let me rent out a day's worth of safe farming on your lands. Stuff like this is what I'm trying to discuss right now, because there's so much potential for weird social interactions on this skill, and most of the player base, well, yeah, frankly, they have no clue, because all they see is farming, and hey, I'm getting killed here. What if I do it this way? It's there's quite a potential for social meta markets in Albion right now, especially because there is all the potential to it and no in-game mechanic to actually run this.
I think you have nailed it, right? Except that to also answer Roland's question about the whole thing, if Albion is ready, they're not ready for the players, but it looks as if the game has been deliberately designed for this, right? They've put in things that are lacking in EVE, and to continue on Dank's idea, right? Something like safe passage is going to be a thing, and you can do that in Albion, whereas you can't really do it in EVE because you can't promise anything, but you can do it if you have a territory, if you're controlling one of the red zones outside of Caerleon, and someone is paying you for safe passage through that zone. It's very likely that you can control it and protect that caravan with X amount of value moving into Caerleon, right? In EVE, that's not possible. That means that there's a whole layer of meta, and then you're going to have embargoes and things like that, where some items are not allowed to be transported in because they are cornering the market in game. And just wait, goons are playing this game, and it's going to go crazy.
For For our listeners who may not know who the goons are, can you give a description of who the goons are, Caleb?
Well, the goons are the world quality assurance testers for games to figure out if your game is broken. It's one of the biggest communities of gamers in the world. I think it's on 20 to 25,000 warm bodies by now. They all came out of the Something Awful forums, and of course they have a strange mentality that's very 4chan-y. But the thing is that they are amazing at figuring out where the holes are in the system, how to abuse it, how to take advantage of game design flaws, or even just human flaws. There's other players that do similar things, but when you're talking about things like goons, because they won the historical war of Eve, they have now reached a scale where it's almost impossible to compete with, because there's just so much brain power in there when you have 20,000 people.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I must admit, I have I think just like almost half of EVE by now has a character within the Goon Squad, and if you see some of the things that they have set up right now, like in EVE, you have players sitting there with like 80 to 90 rorquals just farming away. And it's like the entire zone is right now at this exponential growth where it is impossible, and it will be impossible in the future, to ever invade on their lands, because yeah, their super force is just doubling by the week right now. It's
Have you watched any of the Twitch streams yet, Dank, on that note? Because it's so funny. People are crying about spies, and it's just so funny as an EVE player. There's spies everywhere.
Yes, welcome.
And stream sniping, and oh my god, it's so funny. And corp theft, and there's something. Did you read that in the patch notes? That now it defaulted to public, I think.
Yeah.
So there's already been personal heists and fucking guild heists, and
Shit.
it's crazy. This is so EVE
Yeah.
Like everyone is stealing and AWOXing, and it's just gonna be hilarious.
Yep.
No, but it's so funny because most of what is happening right now is it is sandbox play, but it's kindergarten sandbox play. Like someone says like, hey, can you make me this item? And you go like, yeah, and they give you the materials, and you don't give them the item. This is what I've been reading on the forums a couple of times, and then the guy who scammed the other one is actually going on the forums like, haha, you got scammed, bro, and being all proud of it.
Bring your own minerals. Oh my god, flashback.
It's like you have these kind of trade window bullshit scams going on right now. And but at the same time, this is the level of...
The designers have made the trade window to work. It's given you a timer, and it's giving you two combo mutual accept and all that stuff. So if you're getting scammed, that's on you. It's not on the design like in EVE, where...
Dude, I was so scared the first time I tried a trade window trade in Albion. I saw the window pop up, and I instantly got like panic attacks. Like, holy shit, we're gonna do this again. But yeah,
that's actually so cool, right? That EVE players can go and play this game and get all the old experiences over again.
Yeah, dude, it feels like we've had 15 years of beta for this.
Right. Actually, let me throw that. So since we kind of revealed, goons and talked about it a little bit, let me offer the other end of the spectrum with that. Jeronicus, you belong to Pandemic Legion, right? Kind of like the other... Kind of like the other side of the coin of goons, right? Sort of like their antithesis, sort of, kind of, as far as how they operate. Can you describe that? And how do you think, if PL had a contingent in Albion, how do you think that will turn out?
Oh, they do. Yeah, they already have a guild and all that in Albion. Although in PL, we were a lot more segregated, I guess. We're smaller groups, and we kind of specialize in our own things, and we all come together to achieve a purpose. Whereas in goons, from what I can tell, is everyone's like trying to progress goon mentality and goon goals. Whereas PL, the goals in PL are whatever we want to do it. So
it's more to the individual.
Yeah, so I think in PL there's going to be a lot more smaller, isolated groups that will probably work together to do things, but they won't coalesce into one large group, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think that's the really interesting part about this game, to me at least, from a meta perspective, is that you have these three groups that you don't so much have in EVE. You have the Albion experts from beta, right? Which is not necessarily EVE players. A few of them are, but a majority of them are not. And you're seeing those groups are very dominant right now, right? Then you have the influx of actual EVE organizations like PL and Goons and NC and whatnot. They're all just creeping in and making their own small groups. And I call that the sandbox experts, right? So you have these Albion experts, you have the sandbox experts, and then you have all these summer children in a massive way, more so than EVE, right? The new blood in EVE is very small, but in Albion it's massive because a lot of players from other games like League of Legends and MOBAs and whatnot, they're coming into Albion and trying it. So it's a whole new pecking order, and it's very funny for me to see how the Albion experts from beta are going to handle the sandbox experts from EVE coming in, like PL and Goons and NC, because I don't know if you know, but I think it's Fame is Goons, and they're pretty low on the ranking system. But I don't think they're ready for what's going to happen when these people start using the system and figuring out how to crack it, because they haven't.
Yeah.
Well, Goons just need 10,000 people to get the ranks up. So
it's
PL
totally
just
doable,
needs
though,
200.
right? It's totally doable. I mean, they have the numbers to just like, hey guys, Albion, get it, beta keys or whatever the heck.
I think there's going to be collusion, right, Jeronica? Don't you think there's going to be collusion between all the EVE entities, even the ones that are enemies in EVE? I think they're going to collude against the Albion experts and the Summer Children in Albion.
Fresh
Oh
targets.
shit! Imagine.
Fresh
Wow.
targets.
I mean, that would be actually be a pretty interesting way to duke out a sub warfare at some point. Let's say, like in EVE right now, you have, kind of coming back to your trading gold against ISK kind of valuation. In EVE right now, you have like blob warfare, the only way to duke something out, and it's completely crazy. Here you have 5 versus 5 battles. So what would happen if you, at some point, have a collateralized situation going on within EVE, where the items get released to the winning party, and this could be up to the point of shit. No, I'm sorry. This is
like your tribe's champion.
It's worse than that, right? We're having the AT tournament right now, right? You're going to see EVE players dedicating specific players that are really good to play stuff in Albion to do those 5v5 and the other one that's 20 versus 20. So you're going to see teams, and I think teams in Albion from EVE are going to collude a lot. I think the EVE player base want to dominate Albion and push everyone else out. And if I'm not mistaken, you're going to see a whole new metagame where PL and Goons are going to be friendly in Albion, whereas they're going to shoot each other's faces in EVE Online. And
man, master race against albinos.
Yeah, and the AT team like personalities, the ones, the Tuskers and Rooks and Kings, which is not AT, but similar experts, they're going to be theory crafting and breaking Albion to pieces, and they're just going to dominate so hard. I know that there's other players that are professionals in things like League of Legends and all that stuff that are really good, but I just don't think they're on the same level when it comes to the meta. They are when it comes to the Twitch, but not the meta.
Yeah, the high level people coming from EVE, all the leadership and all that, they understand that if you're friends today, you might be enemies tomorrow. That doesn't mean that your enemies or your friends today are going to be friends tomorrow, kind of thing. You know, it changes. Everything's fluid. So if your goals align, then you should become friends. If they don't, then go push over their sandcastle, kind of thing.
Definitely enjoy the mutually enjoyed interest of certain aspects.
Yeah, enjoyed the mutual destruction, to be honest. I'm gonna put a video up real quick on
in Albion. Mutually assured destruction. PL takes that corner, Goons take that corner, and NC gets to be in the middle.
That's what it's like in Eve, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
What I've linked in Twitch chat, guys, is a review of recent state of Albion. This is done by Skyland.
Yeah.
He's a pretty prominent and prolific Albion content creator, not just as a streamer but as a video maker as well on YouTube. I was really interested on his take on the state of Albion. I think when he published this, I think we were about almost 2 weeks post launch, and I was kind of curious into what he was saying, that it feels like Albion is just a skeleton right now. Like it's got the building blocks of something good, but not quite there yet. Personally, I think
like Eve 2003.
Yeah,
right? Their skeleton didn't work. Nothing was up and running, and yeah, that he nails it if that's what he's saying. I see it as a skeleton too.
Yeah, and the reason I think what really got me interested in his comments though is I think he wasn't really he was addressing the on rails part of Albion. I totally agree with his assessment of the on rails part, but I think what his video didn't really address, I don't think he intended to, at least, was the meta possibilities, the actual sandbox gameplay possibilities, which I think is okay for the current state of the game. I think a lot of it is doable because you have to use your brain power, you have to use your social skills to talk to people, to get them in the bargaining table. That's just I think in that sense, Albion is in a pretty decent state as far as that kind of gameplay.
I was going to ask you guys what you think of poking Matterall and asking if he could make a talk show that's called Cows in Towns.
Yes.
So he can do 2 shows each week: talking in stations and cows in towns.
I know, right? All right. In our last thing here, Lisa, before we have in the show notes, is what are we up to? What are we looking forward to? What operations are we working on, or at least the stuff you're willing to talk about? I'll start off with this one. Me personally, so in EVE Online, I'm a station trader. What's that? Basically, I sit in one market node and I buy and sell things all in the same spot. Basically, what have I been working on? My main source of income has been flipping tier 2 resources. That's all I've been doing. I started
tier 2 for the win.
Yeah, legit. So I had, I think, 230,000 gold once I converted my gold. I'm sorry, 230,000 silver. So I sold my gold that I got from the Founders Pack, and using my profit from that, I've been able to upgrade my gear to tier 3, contribute to the Guild Island, and
yes,
I'll be honest, even just flipping item, buying and selling in the same node, it's super easy here. It's super exploitative because people don't value their items very well.
Oh yeah,
it's virgin territory, right?
Yeah,
people don't know what the prices are, and okay, I would compare this to what I did when I launched my old character on the Outer Ring. So I'm calling it the Outer Ring in the starter zone, right? When I was done leveling and gathering and all that stuff, because I leveled everything up so I could at least do tier 3. Then what I did was I took all the stuff, all the materials I had left and all of that, and just fire sold everything. Just sold it on the station so I could leave my ox in case I wanted to start ring trading again. And then I just took my donkey, because I didn't premium account that one. I wanted to see how long it takes to actually earn money to premium. And then I just rode him into the inner ring, right? But if you have stuff set up buy orders wise out in the outer ring, you're going to get my stuff from my alt, right? So it's not that it's an exploitative price. It's just that there's not enough market coverage, which ties back to one of the problems in EVE, that we do not have infinite orders in EVE. There's infinite orders potentially in Albion, and I hope they keep that, because then the market can mature and people can leave their investments in the market orders, in the different rings and in the different markets. So you're going to see a lot of potential development in ring markets, central Kaelion markets, and then even more exciting, the guilds and alliance and territorial markets. And that's why we need that API, so Jeronica can start working on making all this make sense.
So, but that runs on the assumption that the individual market nodes actually cannot interact with each other, right?
Yeah, they're like stations. They do not interact. They interact only through players, right? So you're going to see a lot more complicated arbitrage stuff in Albion. This is why I keep saying that Albion is ready for EVE players in a way that I don't even think many EVE players have figured out yet, because they have designed it so that you can't easily go into the central hub, so you can't easily get to Jita. They've designed it so that there is a conquerable space around their central market intentionally. So there's just so many things that are going to be so much more interesting when it comes to things like arbitrage and deal making and embargoes and cartels, all that stuff, because they've also distributed resources so you don't have all the things in all the areas, which is exactly what I've been raining on about for 2 years now when it comes to EVE.
Cartels, baby.
Oh yeah. Cartels is a natural development from humans. It's just that the developer needs to make sure that they design so the market is potentially free, so there is options to challenge a cartel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, how about you, Dan? You got any anything to talk about moving forward? Any operations you want to share with us?
All right. Well, it's basically what I'm doing here is mostly the same that I've been doing in EVE. Like within EVE, I've been terrible at playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, but I've had loads of fun with the meta game, setting up stuff like tournaments and doing little all kinds of weird little side quests and stuff like that. And within Albion, what I'm focusing on right now is especially the meta market. And my first focus right now is to be able to put a price on security, and to be able to put a price on protection and on, a general sense of heightened success rates when it comes to volatile areas and stuff like that. So I am very much contacting everyone who kills me, everyone who blobs me, everyone who wants to take my stuff, and all those people, and I'm trying to work out ways with them on how they would do this in a more targeted environment, but also to find ways if there would be off switches for them at set times so that certain areas can be pacified and such. So I am very much looking at the social market right now, which for me potentially means that for the next couple of months I won't ever reach T5 itemization or stuff like that. But I'd be very interested in seeing how to create a market for for social effort and securities in a sense. So, yeah, that's more or less what I'm focusing on right now. And this contract system is one of them. Another one is kind of create a Safari system for the casual gamer to be able to go out to the Black Zone safely without being ganked, but also without having to join up with a guild and just kind of feel like, hey, I'm going to be farming here today because I have like 1 day access to this Black Zone over here, and I know that the local community will not gank me for a price.
You're bringing in rental.
I was about to say, you want to rent the space?
Rental right now, and
PL,
I don't even.
There's your chance, PL.
Yes, man. It's like a rental right now, and do it for a ticket price, do it for a percentage. That's why I was asking earlier if there's a way to cargo scan. But since there isn't, then it's probably going to come down to a ticket price for like 24 hours of safe farming without being ganked by the local community. Stuff like this, so that the casual gamer can go to a Black Zone without having to bitch and whine about being ganked all the time, or being zerged, as they call it here, because the local zerg community sees you as one of their own for the limited time that you have there. So brilliant. Yeah, basically Safari in a sense. And yeah, there's a couple of more plans like that I have right now, most of which rely heavily on the sandbox nature of things. Like, I suck at marketing, I suck at trading, I see opportunity somewhere where I end up with like 25,000 carrots, and that's just about it. But with social constructs, that's what I can work with. So that's what I'll be trying to set up here and see if any of the players here are susceptible to that kind of thing.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. I'm looking forward to that, definitely.
Yeah, see.
How about you, Jeronica? Any plans coming up?
I'm gonna take it pretty casual and just work on out of game stuff for the most part. I'm still pretty involved in EVE Online, so I don't want to overextend myself. So yeah, I'm just gonna do some farming and write some tools and see what other people do with them.
That sounds very much like your EVE career, though.
Yeah, it's what I like to do.
Looking forward to Jeronica tools in Albion.
Could we potentially see the tools that you've created for EVE make a transition for Albion?
Yeah, I'll eventually probably do that. And if they have a way to... yeah. Hoping that they'll be able to let us charge subscription as well, like what I do for EVE as well. That's probably how I'll make my money like I do in EVE right now.
There you go.
Perfect business model.
Right. How about you, Caleb? Any plans?
Well, I'm seeing this as a chance to get everything afresh, right? It's so new, it's so virgin, and I'm just hoping that I can focus on things like the meta on creating content like this and getting more people to do that. I was not necessarily kidding when I said that I think that Albion needs a talking in stations or similar things. They also need proper news outlets and things like that, because there is so much potential in telling the meta story, especially if they start thinking of things like historicity, so things matter, and who owned what, when, and sovereignty maps and things like that. We're going to see potentially all of that develop, and knowing that some of the very, very interesting developers from EVE Online has their fingers in Albion already, the sky's the limit. It's just going to be amazing to follow. Myself in game, I don't really care much about winning. I got out of that in EVE back in 2007. I think it's the same in Albion. You can't really... winning criteria is a mistake in the sandbox game. You have to survive and strive, not win. There's no win button. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I mean, this has been a really good pilot episode, guys. Hopefully we can keep this up. Maybe we'll figure out what kind of cadence to have for something like this. Being so close from launch, we're not. At least I don't know from a market perspective. What's a reasonable time frame to kind of revisit certain things, right? What's a reasonable time frame to go back and report on? Oh, this item is doing so and so in the market, and this thing is has too much supply or whatever the heck, right?
T2 leather, and get out of the carrot bubble, and we need some cover art for the carrot bubble.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Copy the old tulip bubble art thing, and then just put a big carrot in there instead.
There you go. Well, thank you very much to our guests. Before we head out, if you have any shout outs for before you close shop.
I think I'm contractually obliged to do at least a shout out to Fame, because they are eventually going to be INN and Goons related, and I'm a little bit invested there. So shout out to them. Start climbing those leaderboards, guys.
There you go. Jeronica, got anything?
No, I'm still pretty green to the Albion community, so you just start making some relationships. So. Yep,
absolutely. I can't wait to see you splash out the tools, man. I'm not gonna lie, these guys don't know what's gonna hit them. They don't know, man.
It's gonna be so over.
They don't know. How about you, Dank?
Oh, I don't really know, not really in particular, but especially if any of the people that I've been talking to over the past couple of days has been watching this or will watch any of a recap of this, then definitely shout out to you. And I hope we can discuss any of these plans in the future, because there's so much work to be done from here on out.
Yeah,
it's going to be totally awesome.
Dank is going to be the cribber of Albion.
Right?
Oh, and I do have a big shout out to Grayscale, now Monochrome. This thing is the bomb. And a huge shout out to Fox4. Thanks for making the market tool already. Let's get this thing on the road.
Yep, absolutely. My shout out goes to all the Albion players who went through all the wipes. The Albion players who suffered through pushing back launch further and further and further, and we're finally here. And it's great, man. It feels good. It feels good. It feels good to be done and have launch. Because I'll be honest, like I actually had my EVE Online Corp go to Albion, and we failed because they did a wipe and we lost interest. But I'm glad that I'm back. I'm really, really glad that I'm back, and I'm glad that I'm able to do market stuff here. And I'm looking forward to actually being able to continue to present media items like this. Albion deserves the coverage, to be honest with you. It really, really does, because there's so much potential, so much potential.
Yeah, we're gonna need one of those SEC guys to do an ALP and do a proper Ponzi scheme on scale, so we can have one of those e-bank stories and get to Financial Times.
Plus the carrot bubble.
Yeah, the carrot bubble is gonna be the thing, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there. Someone should write that and put it on INN, because then
it's
gonna get coverage, right?
Right. All right. Well,
Veronica, can't you write that? You have a pretty good pen and a bit of historical perspective and invested in it.
Sorry, what was that?
Veronica has been writing articles a bit in the past and is also into carrots.
Oh, the whole carrot bubble, yeah.
Yeah, you should write an article, the carrot bubble, and put it on INN.
Yeah, but it's not a bubble yet, man. Carrots are gonna go to the moon. I'm telling you.
To the moon and back.
From here.
Great.
It's still pretty stable right now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right now it is. But then the patch hits, and then we're gonna create a huge FUD over it. Oh man, it's gonna be so awesome. I feel it.
Yep. Alrighty.
When players get their islands, there's gonna be so many carrots that you can feed the world.
Alright, we're gonna go and cut it, guys. Thank you very much for all of our live viewers, and we'll figure out a good time frame to actually do this periodically. I'm probably gonna shoot for I think every 2 weeks will be good, especially for market related items. Give time for things to mature. So we'll shoot for 2 weeks from now, at least, right around there. And hopefully see you again. I'm gonna be uploading this to YouTube as well. Of course, it'll be still remain on my channel as well. So I'll tweet that out as soon as it's done uploading, and it'll definitely be done today for future consumption.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, Rhoda.